Welcome to the Faith Together podcast from the Center for Faith and Family at Olivet Nazarene University. If you believe that passing down Christian faith is essential for the next generation, you are in the right place. Enjoy conversations with guests who are faith practitioners, parents, caregivers, pastors, counselors, and many more. You'll enjoy practical tools and community for passing down Christian faith to your children and grandchildren.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Faith Together podcast. We are so glad to have you joining us today. I'm Lindsay, joined with my co-host, Leon. Hi, Leon.
Hi, Lindsay.
It's wonderful to be here today. The sun is shining.
Yes, it is. It's still cold, but the sun is shining.
Yes. So for our listeners, we do pre-record these episodes, but we love to see that in the wintertime, the sun is out.
Yes, because oftentimes it can get a little depressive when you don't get to see the sun much.
Yes.
During the winter.
It's true. The seasons are so important because we need the sunshine.
We do.
Yes. And that reminds me of kind of what we've been talking about, the seasons of development for students and
nice
kids.
Transition.
Do you like that?
Yeah, good job.
Oh, man. Yes. So that's our series. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, ages and stages, right? So learning about how each of the different stages, understanding developmental theory in particular, we've not really gone into the technical part of developmental theory, but based on some of the things that we learned from like James Fowler, who is kind of the father of spiritual development, we've kind of talked around that, so we've not gotten too technical, but recognizing that at each stage of life, there are unique ways in which faith is communicated and faith develops. And so we've been working through different stages of a child's development, beginning with early childhood. And we had a friend of yours on.
That's right. Michaela was with us, Michaela White.
Yep. And then we talked about elementary age stage, which is a unique stage, and lots of learning that takes place during that stage. Really, really lots of learning. And then we jumped to the middle school stage, and we had your middle school pastor from Gathering Point join us.
That's right. Pastor David joined us for the middle school conversation.
And that was really good. And then we talked about high school and the uniqueness of all the things that are going on in high schoolers' lives these days, particularly with social media and the impact of screens. And we've gone down that road multiple times.
Yes, it's true. And we initially thought about putting high school with college students, but we wanted to separate the two because there are some distinct differences.
That's right.
Yeah,
right.
So today we get to talk about college students.
Yeah, and you and I are kind of both immersed in that world these days.
Yes, just a little bit.
Yeah. So we've kind of started each of these episodes of this series with just memories, sharing our own memories from our own lives when we were in that stage of life. The more that we have talked about these different stages of life and memories of those, the more I realize I'm kind of like at that last stage of life. I mean, not that it's going to come to an end anytime soon, but you know, there comes a point where you just like, okay, so like I found out, I mean, I knew this, but it hit me the other day. I qualify for Social Security now.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm really not that old.
No, you do not act that old. That is true.
I'm not sure what that means.
It means a good thing. Okay. It's a good thing.
But I just realized, you know, these stages of life were a long time ago. And so let's start with you on your college stage experiences or memories.
Okay, so I think college is a time that a lot changes very quickly. And so I wanted to give an example of kind of the beginning part of my college experience to the ending and contrast those two because I think it teaches us a lot about the conversation we're going to have today. So when I came to college, I came to Olivet here at Olivet Nazarene University. And I remember distinctly just loving the college life, loving making new friends, loving getting to know everybody that, you know, was in my dorm, that was nearby, in my classes, all the above. And this was a brand new experience for me. And it was something I had always dreamed of because I went to a public high school, grew up in Ohio, always very adventurous, wanted to go to school out of state, and I wanted to go to a private school. And so Olivet, God definitely surprised our family with Olivet. It was not on my radar. It was kind of a last minute thing, which is a whole nother story. But I came here and knew this was where God wanted me to be. And little did I know how much a part of my life it was going to be for many years to come. However, when I came, I remember just being so busy, start to finish of the day, just everything packed in, right? Running. And at the end of the day, it would be close to midnight, maybe even after, my mom would say, and that is when I would call home. Because that was when the day stopped and you realized, oh, I miss my family, or, oh, I want to share this with them. And so my mom and I have a joke that she got less sleep when I was in college than when I was a little baby because
you were calling at night.
Yeah, because I would call late at night and I always forgot about the time difference, even though it was just an hour, but all those things. And so it was just very interesting that my life was just so packed. I was enjoying it so much. And then, would talk to them later at a time that most people were not awake. And so the schedule for college students is very different than the rest of the world, right?
Yes.
And then what I want to contrast it with is when I graduated, I had always, I loved my Olivet experience and I didn't want to leave. I really felt like, how am I going to get through my senior year? I just love being here so much. How am I going to say goodbye? And I remember my last semester, I was getting close to graduation and I couldn't wait to be done. It was just, it just happened. And so I go from starting college of just taking it all in, filling the schedule, to my last semester being, I was an elementary education major. So I was student teaching 4th grade and had been gone all day teaching in a local school, would come back, do my lesson prep, would go to bed pretty early because you had to be up early and ready for the day for the kids. And I just was ready to step into life in a different routine. As graduation got closer, I was just, okay, I'm ready. I appreciate this experience, but I'm ready to be done. If you would have told, start of college, Lindsey, that, I would have never believed it. And it's just so interesting to me when I look back how much did change in my own, personality, but also in just my activities, my schedule, all of that, and how I grew through it and developed quite a bit.
I'm not surprised that you fully immersed yourself in the experience. I mean, that's just your personality.
Yes.
I could imagine you being involved in 100 different things as part of your experience. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and I had to learn to say no, the more I went through. And that was a good lesson that has stuck with me through the years of not overcommitting. And I know that's not every college student's experience. Lots of college students have different experiences than that. But for me, that one really stuck out.
Well, my experience was rather unique. So I don't know if you know this about me, but I did not start college till I was 27.
You did tell me that.
Did you know that? Okay.
Yes.
So I was married and had a 2-year-old daughter when I started school.
Wow.
So a little bit of background on that. So I was not a good student in high school, and I did not enjoy school at all. And so when I graduated, it was like the happiest day of my life. I'll never have to step foot in the classroom again. Isn't God's humor wonderful? Never have to step foot in the classroom again.
You're in a classroom every day.
Yes. And so I actually started in ministry at the age of 21 and did that part-time at my home church. And I did that for 4 years and was content with that. I was fulfilling my call to ministry. God was happy. I'm working a full-time job. I'm happy. Everything's good. And then I had an opportunity to get a full-time position across the country. So I grew up in California, and now I'm in Georgia, serving full-time with my brand new baby at the time and my wife and all of our families out in California. So we did that for about 1.5 years, and I began to realize that I really didn't know what I was doing. I was thinking I could do this without my education. And after about 1.5 years, there were some circumstances that kind of forced my hand a bit to make a decision. And I decided we were going to pack up and go to school. We decided that as a family. And went to Trevecca, Nazarene University in Nashville, and had an amazing experience. First of all, I was scared to death. I didn't know if I had the intellectual ability, because I had been such a poor high school student, that I would be successful, but absolutely fell in love with the experience. And in particular, there were 3 professors I'd like to mention that really were transformational in who I was as a person. So the first is Dr. Tim Green. Okay, a couple of these are retired, and one of these is still, Tim is still serving at Trevecca. But the interesting thing is all 3 of these have since told me I'm to call them by their first name. And do you know how hard that is? Because I'm a colleague with them now, right?
Sure.
So Tim, he was close enough to me in age that I feel comfortable calling him Tim. Tim was our Old Testament professor and helped me to just fall in love with the Old Testament. So we took a class on the Pentateuch, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and he was so in love with Genesis that I think like the last 3 weeks of class, we covered Exodus through Deuteronomy.
Oh, no.
We just spent all this time in Genesis, and as a result of that, I have fallen in love with the book of Genesis.
Oh.
I could live there. I have to be careful that I don't live there, but I could live there. So Dr. Tim Green was a significant influence on my life. And then on the other end, New Testament, Dr. Dan Spross. And Dr. Spross was a hard professor. And I kept taking his classes when I didn't need them. So I would register thinking, oh, I'm really excited about studying Paul's letters, And then I'd start the semester and think, what were you thinking? He is so hard. And but it was life transformational for me. And then the professor that I was afraid of was my theology professor, Dr. H. Ray Dunning. And Dr. Dunning wrote the textbook that we use, Grace, Faith, and Holiness.
Uh-huh.
And so that's kind of intimidating when the professor has written your textbook. You can't fake your way through it. And I remember being in class with him and thinking that I might want to ask a question and going through in my mind exactly what words I would say because I didn't want him to get angry at me. Now, I don't think he ever got angry, but he was just so smart that he kind of expected that from his students. And he challenged me to be more than I was. And he really helped me to think well theologically. At least I think well theologically as a result of him. And so I'm just appreciative of these. So my college experience was a little bit different. I didn't actually participate in a lot of college life. I mean, I went to basketball games and things like that when they were on campus, but I was busy with a family.
Of course.
So I would go to classes and then, spend some time with my family, and then they would go to bed and I'd head off to the library and do my work.
Wow.
So that was a different kind of college experience, not what most students experience.
Yeah, and I think that's important to note here because for our listeners out there, if you have a college student, we know that college is a different kind of experience for everyone. So we don't want to assume that it's a traditional right out of high school 4-year experience, or that any kind of experience post high school isn't valuable or important, because it is.
That's right.
And so we're really just talking about the phase itself. The experience is set alone. When you say the experience is in its own,
that's unique.
Yeah, that's unique to each person. But a college student in that phase after high school, there are a lot of things that change and develop. Like for you, Leon, that would have been having a family. There's a lot of students in this stage that are getting married, have a family of their own, and stepping into life in that rhythm. So and then there's others that are still trying to figure out what's next. And all those things are acceptable and good and a part of the umbrella of this developmental phase.
That's right. So it doesn't matter if your student is actually at college or going to a community college where they're getting a trade focus, or they're just out there in the work world. There are some uniquenesses about who they are at that stage of life and how they develop spiritually. It doesn't matter what the situation is. there's just something unique about this age.
Yes, absolutely. So let's start with just a fun question to think about. What do we love the most about this stage, and what inspires us about this stage? So you and I, Leon, we work with college students, so maybe we should just remind our listeners how we do that, how we're connected with college students.
Yeah, so I'm a professor. I teach in the School of Theology and Christian Ministry, so most of the students I interact with in the classroom are either preparing for ministry or they're doing a minor in ministry. So in addition to that, I'm chaplain for our men's basketball team, so I love sports, so that gives me another avenue to interact with students. So that's a big portion of what I do, and of course, I'm director of the Center for Faith and Family.
Yes.
That doesn't really engage students a whole lot, so most of my engagement is in the classroom.
And you get to lead mission trips.
Oh, yes.
To Tanzania with college students.
Yeah, I've been doing that. This will be my 11th trip to Tanzania. It's in the kind of the eastern part of the continent of Africa. And people there speak Swahili, not English, so it's always a journey. And it's so much fun to take students there and interact with them at kind of a different level. Mm-hmm. So they know me by my first name, which I think for a lot of them is a little awkward at first. And then they get to know things about me they would never get to know about me, and me about them, when you're spending 16 days together in an environment like that.
Yeah, that's so true. And you're also an advisor, right? An academic advisor for students?
So most students that are either children's ministry majors or Christian ed majors, I'm their academic advisor, which basically means that if they're struggling at any point, they come and see me, or I see that they're struggling, I call them in, and we kind of work through some things together, and then help them think through the progression of their program. So what classes should I take this semester to make sure I'm prepared for the following semester, those kinds of things.
Yeah, so you get to work with college students on a lot of levels.
I do.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. My role with college students is a little bit different than yours. I serve as a resident director with Res Life, or Residential Life, here at Olivet. So what that means is I get to give leadership to the resident assistants who live in women's housing out in our apartment complex called Grand Apartments. So we have a lot of upperclassmen housing. That is apartment living. It's not, upperclassmen can still live in our residence halls, our dormitories on campus, if that's something that works for them. But as students continue on in college, many times they like to move out to the apartments to feel a bit more independence and to have a little bit more space and just make some memories with their roommates. So I am overseeing, as a resident director, 2 women's upperclassmen apartment buildings on what we call the Grand Apartments. So I get to have 2 resident assistants, one in each of my buildings, that oversee all the activities for their building, help build community, help connect with each of their residents to make sure that everybody has somebody, is the way we like to put it. Yeah. Everybody has somebody.
Yeah, that's good.
We have a lot of students on our campus, and we know that many times it can be lonely, especially when you're trying to figure out life in this stage, and you might be doing it for the first time on your own. And so our role really as resident directors and resident assistants is to be a sounding board and to be a support to our students in our buildings. So this year I have around 40 residents between my 2 buildings, and then I have 2 RAs. And I absolutely love it. It is one of the joys of my life. I've talked about it on the podcast before, but we love building community together, love having the girls over to just share life, to do Bible study, to have fun taco nights, to have fun soup Sundays. We do a lot of eating together. We also love to play games and just build that community so that we all continue to support one another and support their goals. There are some other things as an RD that I get to be a part of if there are especially challenging events that happen in a resident's life, whether it's physical illness, the passing of a loved one, needing to go to the hospital, all the above. Yeah. Anything can happen, right, when you're living on campus. I'm kind of the first line of care to step in and be there for them and to support them the best that I can. And we have a great team in Res Life that supports me so that we can get the students what they need.
You are also a children's pastor, and
I
so
am.
you have college students that serve as interns with you, correct?
Yes, that is true. So that's kind of the other side of my coin with college students is that I have around right now about 6 college students that serve actively in my children's ministry at Gathering Point. And I have had over the last couple of years 3 college student interns that have interned with me, whether it was a summer or throughout the school year. And what that means is I just walk alongside them. They're usually ministry majors looking to become children's or family pastors or youth pastors. And we learn together, give them experience to learn what it looks like to walk through a Sunday morning, and then how to care for families all week long throughout their life and time. And so that's been really, really, really fulfilling to be able to come alongside college students in that way.
Yeah, one of the things I love about our ministry programs at Olivet is they require our students to have 6 semesters of a mentored ministry experience and relationship with a veteran in the field they want to serve in, right? So you have the opportunity, as do I, to have students intern with us at the churches where we serve. We have them for 6 semesters and have an opportunity to watch them develop, give them more responsibilities as time goes on, and see them really fall in love with what it means to be a children's pastor by the time that they're getting ready to graduate.
Yeah, and it's been really rewarding to see the mentorship in the internship experiences cross over into the everyday res life on campus. So many of my interns, while they maybe haven't lived in my buildings, they live nearby. And so they've become part of our community. And some of them do live in my buildings. And so that has been really cool to see that mentorship grow and develop to be more than just, you live in my area. And so we're connected in that way. It's become much more robust and meaningful.
Yeah, so maybe we should get on to this.
Yeah, what do we love about
the stage?
this?
Yeah,
Yes.
so what do you love about it?
Clearly we love it because we love talking about it. I think the thing I love the most is the openness that college students have for relationship in their life. They want to be around you. Now, they may act like sometimes they're too busy or they have too much going on, but I've found if you bring some cookies or any kind of like little free food item,
that is a college theme.
Yes.
Free, if you just provide food, they will come.
It's so true. It's so true. So when I'm doing my rounds and checking on my girls each week, I always try to have some sort of snack or something that helps them to feel, like, oh, I can talk because I have a few minutes to eat this snack and chat. So I just love their openness. But even if it's not around, free food, it's still, there's so many of them that want to learn more about themselves because they're discovering for the first time a lot of independence away from their families and, with their classes and their professors and chapel services. There's so much that they're reflecting on and that they're taking in. And so one of my greatest joys is being able to kind of be that soft place to land at the end of the day, to be able to have those kind of conversations that says, how was class today? Oh, I really learned this interesting thing. And to be able to hear about that. And they're so excited to share that with you. And whatever, experience they're in, I've always found that they're just really, really open to sharing about that. So that inspires me to continue to be open to more relationships in my life. I think the older that we get, we can become a bit more closed to creating our village of people around us. We think, well, I've got these few friends and this is all I need in life, which is great. It's great to have those longtime friends and to have that community. But college students remind me that there's always something new to learn and that with our eyes open, there might be a relationship we would have never expected to develop that's there, that comes to fruition during this season and during this time that's one of the things I love about being a resident director is it is an opportunity on campus that forces all of us to interact with people and students that we typically wouldn't interact with. And I've found some of the greatest relationships through that. So it really inspires me to just keep an open mind and an open heart to bring others in to my life.
That's good insight. I like that. It's interesting that as you started talking, I thought, okay, I've got to come up with something new because that's what I had on my list.
Oh my gosh.
That these students are very relational.
Yes.
And I love that because I'm a fairly relational person. I'm kind of a unique, maybe just different, maybe not so unique, kind of professor because all my life I've been a pastor and then I became a professor. And so I have a hard time dividing the line between those two roles that I play. So I'm very pastoral in my classes and with many of my students, especially those that I'm advising and that kind of thing. But one of the things along that same line that stands out to me is there is a movement. It can happen earlier, but I think I see it a lot in this stage, a movement from just acquiring knowledge to understanding how that knowledge can lead to a life that's transformed. When it comes to spiritual nurturing, I think, our students grow up in great churches. They learn a lot of the Bible. They learn the great Bible stories of the Old Testament when they're kids. And then when they get to the New Testament, they learn a lot about Paul and the Gospels and all. And for a lot of them, they can talk about it, but it hasn't really changed them. Not all of them. Many of them come already changed. But I think in college, there's this unique experience where all of a sudden the information I know serves a purpose. It's not just so that I have knowledge, but it helps me to better understand who I am, who God is, what my issues are, and that I want to take this knowledge that I've learned and really apply it and be the person God wants me to be.
Yeah. I think a lot about how we talk that learning can happen in formal settings and also in informal settings. And passing on faith happens that way too. And we've talked a lot during this series that passing on faith is very informal, right? It needs to be just part of our everyday lives. I think what we start to see during the college phase is more of a formal passing of faith. Yeah. Where they're really participating in all of this informal learning that they've had throughout childhood, throughout adolescence. And we start to see it shape, as you're saying, into their own tangible expression of what it means to follow Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. The expression I use is they begin owning their faith. So if we think about the transition that a college student goes through from being a part of a church and a Christian family, they're kind of in a bit of a bubble that they've been protected when it comes to the way we think about Scripture, our theological perspective. All of that has kind of, we are the product of the environment we've been a part of. So the family I'm in and the church I'm in have shaped the way that I think about God and the way that I think about salvation and the way I think about my relationship with God. And then something happens when you leave that protective bubble of church and home. Now you're outside of that and you're in a college environment, if you're in a college, mm-hmm. where your roommates come from a different theological tradition, or their church understood the Bible a bit differently than you did. And all of a sudden you're hearing other perspectives for the very first time. And what I have found is students, I'll raise an issue in class, and students all of a sudden will realize that's not the way I was taught. I've got to now process through this. And so a big portion of what we do is not to indoctrinate our students into thinking like we think, but to be thinkers and to be able to take different perspectives and say, okay, now that I am in essence kind of on my own, what is it that I believe, and what do I want to own, and how is that going to shape my life? And what I have found is that most students kind of return to the tradition they came out of, but they return there with a more wide perspective, broader experience and understanding than maybe they did when they started college. So I see a lot of them really start to own their faith in this stage, which I think is a really great thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that was really well said. And I also think that there are many students, whether you're attending a private university like Olivet or at a public university or a community college or whatever it is that your experience looks like, there are many college students that are starting a new life than what they had before. And we see that a lot here at Olivet too, that yes, there are many that come from Christian homes and that are coming and learning and growing in their own faith, but then there are many that do not come from Christian homes. I think our latest statistic is like over half are not coming from Christian homes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think they're coming in wanting to be here for whatever it is, their sport, their scholarship. That could be one part of it. Or they've just felt drawn to come to Olivet and to put their faith in Jesus and to start something new in their life.
Or for the academic programs.
Yes.
Because we have great academic programs.
Yes, for sure. And so all those things are really amazing to see how faith begins to develop in them for the first time.
Yeah, and so if I could put a plug in here for Olivet and other Christian universities for that matter, I think maybe this is the most important stage in a person's life where a Christian education would be an important focus.
Absolutely agree.
So as they're trying to navigate through who they are and what they believe, being in an environment that encourages them. So I think about, I hope it's okay to say this, but I think about a student raised in a strong church, strong family, who goes to a public university where the perspectives are very, very different. And they're trying to navigate who they are and what they believe, and they're being bombarded by a variety of views of the world, and don't have that support system, I think is the way I want to say it.
Right.
Don't have that support system that helps navigate them down that road. A Christian environment, Christian school provides that. Mm-hmm. So here are some things to think about. We want you to make the decision yourself, but let us kind of guide you along the way and answer questions as you're trying to figure out life.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And it's exciting to see how the Lord works through all of that and how they are guided. And in that guidance, they begin to guide others. We see it all the time.
Yeah.
These students really are a domino effect of passing on faith. And I'm inspired when I get to see so many of my girls, catching on to the truth of God's word, sharing it with their friends or a neighbor, bringing them to Bible study the next week, praying with them, sharing, faith together. It is really, really inspiring. And again, it reminds me and it convicts me that this is what we need to be doing in our adult lives.
Yeah, and that's what gives me hope for the future is many of these students are so serious about their relationship with God. We have revival services here in the fall and the spring. If you're not familiar with the revival services, it's just we spend 4 days, morning and evening, with a special speaker, preacher who I'm not saying this very well. It's just a spiritual focus for about 4 days on campus.
Yep.
And of course, chapel in the mornings is required, but then we have evening services at College Church next door to the campus, and those are completely voluntary. And every chapel service is packed with students.
Always packed.
And their responses come into the altar to pray about things that they're dealing with.
And praying with one another.
And praying with each other, yeah. And so this is another side of college life that we often don't see in our culture.
That's right.
That people need to know is real.
Yes. This generation is changing the world.
Yeah.
They really are. And it fires me up to get to see that and to get to live life with them. And so that's good news. It's really good news today.
Yeah. So if there's one thing that you'd want parents to know, Lindsey, about college students, what would that be?
I would say this isn't the end as a parent.
Yeah.
I think a lot of parents assume, okay, they're 18, they're out of the house, or they've moved on to their next experience. I'm done. My experience, now I don't have an 18-year-old. I'm not to that stage of life or anything like that. But my experience as a resident director is that it just begins because they need you more than ever.
Yeah.
They may not say that, but they need you. And so finding ways to be intentional to show them that you believe this isn't the end, that you're still in their corner. And I think a few weeks ago we had our episode on the middle school stage. Pastor David and I talk a lot about finding your five with parents, which means finding those 5 adults that are faith influencers in your child's life that aren't you. And I think during this phase of college, it's important to have your tribe for your child and to not only stay intentional with them, whether that's, a text each day with a prayer or just checking in when you can. There's a lot of schedule differences, but finding ways to just connect with them, but also using your tribe to continue to do that too, because that brings a lot of security and it brings a lot of healthy attachment for them to continue moving forward in their life when they feel that support from what's been before. And so I would just say, continue being intentional in those relationships, even though it may look different.
Yeah, I would support that for sure. The role that parents play in the life of a college student is still really critical. And, we see 2 extremes on campus. We see students who are here completely on their own with no family support at all. Maybe they've come from a difficult family situation and they just don't have that. All the way to the other extreme where, you've heard the term helicopter parent.
Yes.
And I think there's newer terms that show that it's even more, I don't even know what the term is, but where they're even more closely connected, So when I get a call from a parent who says, my student didn't do very well in your class, can you figure out what you need to do to help my student? I appreciate that at one level, but at the other level, I want to say, has your student come to see me? Let them be responsible, let them start to grow up and take on those kind of responsibilities. But the support of the parent is still important. And as someone who's further along in their experience with this, both of my girls are past this stage, and now they have families of their own. I can look back and see the importance of letting them become an adult. But I also recognize that these stages were really fun as a parent to come alongside and support them.
Oh, yeah. So many great memories can be made during this stage together. And I would agree, in residential life, we see all different kinds of patterns as far as parents and their responses and their activity in their students' life. And I would say there's a balance. And for every family and for every student, it's different. To find that healthy place, but it's worth exploring, and it's worth the effort to get there.
Yeah. Parents are never done being parents.
Never.
I used to think when my kids went off to college, I'd be done. And now with my grandkids, I come along and help my girls be the moms that they desire to be, and support them and learn how to find that balance and not be too intrusive.
Yeah, we laugh a lot as RDs. We share a lot of community together because of the unique experience that we have of living close by one another. And we say, college students, there's a lot of similarities to kindergarten. Because
that is so true.
Not insulting. I'm not insulting.
No.
But it's a new experience of meeting new friends,
Yeah.
of sharing supplies, of learning how to navigate conflict when those things happen. And also, they always love a good snack, as we talked about, and nap time is important, Sleep is important.
Yes, so, that is so good. Yeah, because they don't get it during the night, so they have to get it during the day. That's generally the way it works.
Yeah. So there's when you think of parenting a kindergartner, you're very intentional with where they're at because of their age and stage and all of that. And yes, they're much older, but there's so many changes happening in a college student's life. And so that intentionality, it's necessary and it's needed from their support systems.
Yeah. Well, this has been a fun conversation.
It really
I've enjoyed
has.
This.
Yes, I'm so glad we could finish up this series together today, and looking forward to our next series. It's going to be called For Families, FOR, For Families. That series is going to lead us through some conversations with some of our Lilly Grant co-participants. So those that have also received a Lilly Grant and what they're doing for families, and us just sharing what we've learned along the way together.
Yeah, so if you're new to the podcast, then you may not know that the work that we're doing through the Center for Faith and Family, which the podcast is part of that, has been funded by a Lilly endowment grant. And there are many, many, many other recipients who have received that grant as well.
Yes.
And the grant is for the purpose of more effectively helping parents pass their faith to their children. And we're all coming at it from kind of different angles. So the next series gives us an opportunity to hear from some of the other groups that are doing the same kind of thing we're doing, but doing it differently.
Yeah. And we're hopeful to be able to share resources and just keep learning together.
Yeah, a little cross-pollinating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know that the Lilly endowment, the team there are all about all of us learning together and staying in connection. So we're excited for those conversations coming up.
Yes. Okay. Well, we hope that the conversation we've had today has been helpful to you and that you better understand the college students that are part of the world in which we live. Many of them very, very serious about their relationship with God, but all of them searching for trying to figure out who they are and what they want to believe as they enter into adulthood. So thank you for joining us today. And as always, may the Lord bless you, keep you, and give you peace. You've been listening to the Faith Together podcast from the Center for Faith and Family at Olivet Nazarene University. Sign up for additional resources at centerff.com. When building faith, we are better together.